Good morning, members, and good morning to the HOD and your department. A warm welcome also to Mr. Moodley from the AG's office. Welcome to this Cogta Portfolio Budget Committee meeting. So just to start off this morning, we're going to call on Honorable Fraser to open for us in prayer.
Ngicela sivale amehlo egameni likayise nelendodana nelikamoya ongcwele. Nkulunkulu Baba, Nkulunkulu onomusa, sihlangene namhlanje kulolu suku lakho oluhle kangaka. Siyacela Nkulunkulu onomusa ukuthi sizoqala senze umsebenzi wesizwe ube nathi. Siyacela Nkulunkulu ukuthi engathi ungenza lo mhlangano uhambe ngendlela okufanele uhambe ngayo. Uvule ingqondo zethu. Siyacela Nkulunkulu onomusa ukuthi ube nanosihlalo uzobe ewudriver. Nkulunkulu onomusa, amalunga ahloniphekile akhona i-department. Siyacela ke Nkulunkulu onomusa ukuthi ube nathi in Jesus name. Amen.
Thank you, Honorable Fraser. This morning, we just want to welcome also those that are joining us on the virtual platform. Vusi, if you could just indicate to me which members are joining us on the virtual platform.
Greetings to yourself, Chairperson. Greetings to all the honorable members present.
All right, while we're dealing with it.
Okay, we have Honorable Gunen online. Honorable Gunen only.
All right, can our tech staff just help us with that? All right, thank you so much. I do note that we have Honorable Kunene on the virtual platform. Welcome to you. We also received an apology from the MEC who's on his way and stuck in the accident on the N3. I believe he will be joining us a little bit later. Vusi, is there any other apologies that have been tendered? All right, thank you for that. I believe that we are correct. I see we've got quite a few members in the meeting today. Can I have a mover for the adoption of the agenda? Honorable Madlopa, thank you. And a second.
Second.
Honorable Brauterset, thank you so much. Members, we now have before us the minutes of the previous meeting, that is the meeting that took place on the 6th of December. And the reason we couldn't adopt those minutes is because in our previous meetings, we didn't have the department with us. So I just want to check if there are any matters arising from those minutes. Can we have a mover for the adoption of these minutes?
I'll move to.
All right, thank you. Can we have a seconder? Honorable Fraser, thank you. Members, without further ado, we are going to go into the departmental reports. We've got 4 reports before us. Before we take the third quarter and the annual report, I just want to get an indication from the HOD. Now, the final budget and the final APP were both presented in Jozini. I just want an indication from you whether there's been any amendments, because members were there for the presentation of both those documents. Has there been any amendments since then? All right. So if the content has not changed, members, those reports were presented to us in Jozini. You've been provided with those reports. So I'm going to take those reports as read, but we will have opportunity to engage with the department with regards to that. So I'm going to give opportunity to the HOD to briefly present to us the third quarter report, and then we'll give an opportunity, the third quarter report and the annual report, and then we'll give members an opportunity to engage on those two reports before we take the final budget, questions on the final budget and the final APP. Over to you.
Thank you very much, Honourable Chairperson. Good morning to the honourable members of the Cogta Portfolio Committee and colleagues. Thank you for this opportunity. And also, we want to indicate that, as the Chair has reported, the MEC is on his way and will join us. We have our management team here, those that were on the agenda, but we also have asked our MANCO members to join on the link that has been provided. So we have some of our management team on the platform as well. I would like to hand over to the CFO, who will then take us through the financial report. And then Mrs. Nelengam Shengu, who is our Chief Director, Strategic Planning, Monitoring and Evaluation, will take us through the performance reports. Thank you.
Thank you, HOD. Good morning, Chair, and good morning, members and colleagues. I am going to be taking you through our third quarter reports, financial reports. I'm not going to go through all the slides, Chairperson. I will take it as some of the slides have been read, and because more other slides include like the graphical presentation.
Yes, please just go over the highlights because I want to give more time to members to engage on the report.
Okay, no, thank you, Chair. I'm on slide 3. If it is being presented, I'm on slide 3. That's where we are indicating our environments, which were formalized during our adjustment estimates. Our main adjustments were the reimbursement of the 30 million, which was allocated to Eskom for the replacement of the transformers. We have since received that amount from Treasury, and we have allocated accordingly within our budgets in the department. And also the other amount that we've received back, which we requested from Treasury, was the unspent funds from our municipalities, which was 4.2 million from Umuzi Wabantu. We have since received that amount back from Treasury, and also we allocated to our financial spending pressures within the department, and also the 35 million rollover for the payment of the back pay of Izinduna. Also, a portion of that we requested from Treasury to use 4.5 million for our to repurpose it for our funding pressures, and that was granted. Hence, our budget was increased from 1.8 billion to 1.9, given those adjustments and estimates of the amounts that we've received. Moving over to slide 4. Slide 4, we're indicating the allocation of the budget per program. As the members may be aware that we have 4 programs. So table 11.1 indicates the allocation per program. Program 1, when we were doing the adjustments, the budget was increased by 8.5 million from the original budgets due to the shortfall of INCAD during the operation for operational costs. For program 2, we reduced the budget by 13 million and allocated to other programs due to the reprioritization which was made in order to remain within the baseline. For projects like the support to the MRs was discontinued, and we had a bit of a savings from S&T. Program 3 was also reduced by 3.8 million from the original budget due to the projects which we undertook for Amakosi resource mobilization and other to the traditional leaders. Program 4 budget was increased by 13.1 million due to the provision made to the appointment of 121 Izinduna, which was approved by Cabinet. So we had to do those adjustments. I am going to move over to slide 8. I'm not going to go through slide 5 to 7 because that's just a graphical representation of our presentation. Slide 8, we're moving over to the revenue analysis. It's also broken down per classification, and there were no adjustments that were made there. As it's the third quarter, which is December, the department collected 2.71%, which was significantly higher than the projection. The over collection is made up of from the transactions in the financial assets and liabilities. That's where we're indicating the over collection. However, the over collection was then also offset by a under collection in the following categories. In the sale of goods and services, we collected 68% against our budget allocation. That was the under collection is 9% against the third quarter projection, was mainly due to the results in the decline in the revenue collected from the sale of obsolete equipment, as well as the decrease in the revenue collected from rented dwellings that the department has. However, the department then is projecting also to collect 92% at year end. For interest and dividends on the rent on land, the department in quarter 3, we collected 81% against the budget allocation. The under collection there was against the third quarter projection that can be attributed to the settlement of debts by the debtors and Izinduna, which were lower than what the department had anticipated. However, we are projecting to collect 100% at year end. And getting into the sale of capital assets, and the sale of assets, the disposal committee resides with the Department of Transport. We had projected that we were going to have a disposal by year end. However, as we are sitting here today, we have not received the disposal dates from Department of Transport, and we don't foresee that we are going to be having that disposal in terms of our capital assets. We are just awaiting Department of Transport to indicate when the dates for disposals will be. Moving on to our expenditure analysis, on slide 10 of the presentation, the 3 tables that are following, table 1.1, 1.2 to 1.4, it's just the summary of the expenditure for the third quarter of this financial year, per program as well as per economic classification. In December, the department spent 98.97 against the third quarter projection, as well as 77.26 against our budget allocation, which is above the 75% benchmark. The under expenditure of 1.03 against the third quarter projection was mainly due to the bus error, which we experienced as a province, and some of the invoices in the last run or in the third quarter did not take place because of the bus error, which was a national challenge. However, we are projecting 100% for the end of the financial year. Slide 11, it's an expenditure analysis by economic classification. In terms of our compensation of employees, in December, the department had overspent by 0.97 against the third quarter projection, mainly that's mainly attributed to the 1.5 backdated pay progression for our former contract employees, as well as the back pay for Amakosi from the second quarter, and also we had to pay our technical support experts in one of our municipalities, and also pay the payment of the long service awards. And then moving on to goods and services, the expenditure on goods and services, the spending in the third quarter.
Who's the member? Oh, all right. My apologies for that. You may continue.
Thank you, Chair. In terms of the expenditure on goods and services, we spent 77.87 against the budget allocation. The over expenditure of 6% relates to the payments made for outstanding back pay of Izinduna stipends. And also we had that issue with the score codes relating to ESCOM in the third quarter. It was still sitting under goods and services, because we were still waiting for Treasury to allocate the correct score codes, which has since been corrected. So in at year end, it's no longer reflected under goods and services. We have done even the journals for the 30 million. Interest and rent on land, the over expenditure there is attributed to the interest payment on overdue accounts. This was then due to insufficient funds in our bank accounts. We requested for additional cash from a treasury. However, we did not get the additional cash to pay that. Hence, yeah. And the transfers and subsidies, provinces and municipalities. Again, in all these categories that I'm going to be talking to under this economic classification, we seem to be okay with the expenditure against the budget, because we are slightly above the 75% benchmark as the department. It's provinces and municipalities, that's 72%, and then we have universities and technicons. We incurred 100%. That's the transfer and the partnership that we have with the UKZN, where we are paying for the 4 postdoctoral academic experts with the UKZN. Transfers and subsidies for public corporations and private enterprises. We've spent 100% against that budget, but however, in the projections we are still indicating the 50% because of that score code error, which I related to earlier, but that has since been corrected. The journal has been done and the transfer has been made and it has been corrected. Non-profit institutions, this expenditure relates to the payments of TC secretary stipends and the catering at the TC meetings. To date, the expenditure is sitting at 35 million. However, at the end of the financial year, that's where we are processing journals to correct that expenditure, and that is going to be done once after the financial year. Households, the department has spent against the third quarter projection was 212%, and we've overspent by 9%. The over expenditure is mainly due to the payment of the leave gratuity as a result of staff exits, which were higher than what we anticipated, and also including the leave gratuity for the municipal interns. We are in that one. Maybe we are anticipating an over expenditure in at the end of the financial year. Payment for capital assets. This is where we are paying for our buildings. We've underspent by 7% against our third quarter projection. Due to the department postponed the construction of global offices and the TAC's projects that were in the preliminary stage due to financial constraints. But we are anticipating then an over expenditure of about 4% at the end of the financial year, because we are paying for the professional fees and the design of those global offices, which came out to be higher than what we had expected as the department. In terms of the machinery and equipment, we've overspent. The over expenditure of 52% against the third quarter was mainly due to procurement of a generator in one of our buildings, which is the Wadley House, which was not in our initial budget. And also the over expenditure was in respect of the payment of invoices from the previous financial year for the departmental fleets and vehicles, which were only delivered in 2024-2025 financial year. Also over and above that, it's the influx of invoices from Vodacom for the finance leases, which we have received. We are anticipating an over expenditure of 8%, mainly due to that Vodacom finance lease invoices backlog, which are being processed. Software and other intangible assets. The spending against the third quarter projection was 14% and 85% against the budget. The under expenditure of 85% against the third quarter projection was mainly due to the general for our Microsoft license that was done to move the expenditure from the capital to goods and services. Additionally, the department then cancelled the order for OptiGhost license due to the reports provided by the service provider, which was not correctly reconciled. However, the department again is anticipating spending 100% against this category at year end. Slide 16, it's the expenditure performance per program now, program 1 to program 4. I will indicate again that the expenditure for each program was also affected by the bus error, which I indicated earlier, hence the under expenditure in each program. Program 1, the under expenditure of 4.13% against the third quarter projection was primarily due to a bus error, which I indicated, but we've since processed those invoices. Program 2, again under expenditure, was also due to a bus error and the non-payment of municipal experts retention fees. Program 3 also, we had an under expenditure in quarter 3 of 3.9% mainly due to the bus error, and we were unable to pay. The last run did not run. However, program 4, we had an over expenditure of 6.3, which is the only program that overspent in quarter 3 against our projections, primarily resulting from the processing of the SARS payovers related to Izinduna back pay that we had not paid before. So we had to pay that amount over to SARS. Additionally, it was also in relation to Vodacom invoices. The slide 18, we are reporting on our infrastructure spending. Maintenance and repairs, that's under program 1. The spending against the third quarter projection was above target at 86.1%. And also the over expenditure was mainly due to the payment of previous invoices for maintenance and the renovations in the department's offices. That's for the maintenance and repairs. Moving on to the refurbishment and rehabilitation, which relates to capital assets. The spending against the third quarter projection was at 60.6, but was higher against our annual budget, was 65%. Then the under expenditure then also was due to the postponement of the rehabilitation of some of the TACs that were in the preliminary stage that I indicated earlier. And then the new infrastructure assets also relating to capital was above the projections at 174% against the third quarter projections and 115 of our annual budget. The third quarter over expenditure was due to the payment of invoices of professional fees and the designs for Ikopo offices, which I did talk about earlier. And infrastructure transfers, the spending there was 50% and 100% against the budget. That also it was affected by that 30 million ESCOM that we had not transferred, and we were still waiting for the SCOA codes, which we have since received and we have since corrected. So we in the fourth quarter we are on 100%. On the leases, infrastructure leases, the spending then against the third quarter projection was 96% and 62% or against our annual budget. The under expenditure of 3% against the third quarter is mainly due to the late submission of invoices by Department of Public Works for the department to process. The leases are in respect of our buildings which we are renting, the Southern Life and other buildings. However, then Department of Public Works, they submit their invoices late, so we couldn't process them in time. Then they will be processed in the fourth quarter. Specifically and exclusively appropriated as the two, I would say, conditional grants. It's our 2 million for OSS DDM responsibilities, as well as the remuneration of Izinduna. In quarter 3, we had not spent that OSS the DDM funds. However, in quarter 4, it has been spent, as well as the remuneration of Izinduna. We are paying them. We are paying the stipends of Izinduna on a monthly basis. The last conditional grant that we have as the department is the EPWP, and their budget is catering for the learnerships that are deployed at municipalities, and also for the municipal in-service program. That amount has been spent, and the department will continue then using its resources to fund the other learnerships, the other learnership programs within the municipalities. Thank you, Chairperson. That's the report for our third quarter performance. Thanks.
Before members engage, thank you so much for the presentation. I wonder if you could quickly take us through the annual report as well.
I'll take the committee through the annual report itself. This is the annual report for 2023-2024. Overall, the department achieved 93% of its targets. This is reflected on slide number 3, and the breakdown of the targets achieved and the targets not achieved are indicated per program. So program 1 only achieved 89%, program 2 98%, program 3 also 98%, and program 4 77% of their targets. A total of 9 targets were not achieved. The breakdowns in the slides that follow provide the targets not achieved per sub-program or at a chief directorate level, and it is reflected there in respect of the Office of the HOD, Human Resource Management, as well as financial management targets under Program 1. Under Program 2, it is a target under public participation that was not achieved. Under Program 3, 1 LED target was not achieved, and under Program 4, there were 3 targets that were not achieved. The details of the targets are reflected in the subsequent slides, and with your permission, Chair, I will also only talk to those targets not achieved and provide an exception report. And the targets not achieved in the Office of the HOD is the payment of invoices within 30 days. And the reason for that is the cost or the fiscal constraints that were experienced by the department and the inability to pay invoices at year end. These were carried through into the new financial year and subsequently paid. The training project, that was to be held, particularly on the organizational and functionality assessments, that was not completed. We were dependent on the Department of Public Service and Administration for this particular matter, and the report was issued after the close of the financial year. Human Resource Administration, the non-achievement of targets here relates specifically to the non-payment of the back pay of Izinduna, and that was as a result primarily of deceased estates, which we are still addressing during the current financial year. As far as the reduction of UIFW is concerned, a significant amount of UIFW relates to an investigation that was undertaken into Umhlatuze water. And there was also pending requests for condonation from the Provincial Treasury following their determination tests. That the Provincial Treasury side has been resolved. Consequence management has been implemented. The Umhlatuze water investigation is still awaited from the Office of the Premier. The public participation target that was not achieved was the filling of the 50 vacancy CDW posts as at the end of April last year. That has subsequently been resolved. On the LED projects, it was the number of identified imiziesizwe that needed to be at construction phase. The design and review of the design and was done in line with the cost containment. Construction was suspended until there is sufficient budget available to undertake these specific projects. And then the items under traditional affairs branch that were not achieved are succession disputes. 10% of the succession disputes were not achieved. These are processes that require engagement with parties, and we are dependent on the process to be able to resolve the disputes, and that is why some of them were not concluded. The matter of information sharing with Amakosi, there was an issue with the constitution of the King Cetshwayo local house, and therefore the session did not take place. Subsequently, there is engagement with the district and Amakosi in the district. And then the last target that was not achieved related to the assessment of traditional affairs officials in line with job descriptions. It was resolved that we needed to hold a session with Amakosi and the relevant staff. That has since been done. The department is now also required by the DPSA to review all critical post-job descriptions and, where necessary, other job descriptions by the end of June this year. So this matter will be concluded by then. Thank you, Honourable Chair.
Thank you so much, HOD. Members, just prepare yourselves. I'm just going to open it up now for questions. So you can engage on the third quarter report, the annual report, the final budget, and the final APP. Honourable Botto said you want to ask a question. All right, just give me an opportunity. I'll open it just now. All right, I'm just getting some questions from the support staff. I think, Vusi, the decision we took is that we had the presentation in Jozini, and there had been no amendments to the content from Jozini to now, and members were satisfied with the presentation they'd had then. So we agreed not to present here. So I'm hearing from the support staff that you haven't done the non-financial. All right, proceed with that.
That's correct. Thank you, Chair. I'll ask Mr. Mshengu to take us through the third quarter non-financial performance report.
Greetings, Chairperson, honorable members of the Portfolio Committee and Financial Performance of the Department. Chairperson, as at the end of quarter 3, the Department overall achieved 93% of the set targets. In the APP, we had set to achieve on 87 indicators. In the third quarter, we achieved on 81 of those, and 6 indicators were not achieved in the third quarter as planned. 2 of the targets that were not achieved were in Program 1, then leaving us at 92% achievement under Program 1. 2 of those were also in Program 2, also putting Program 2 at 92% achievement of their planned quarter 3 targets. Program 3 did not achieve on only 1 of the planned targets out of the 27 that were planned for achievement in quarter 3. So they were sitting at 96%, with traditional affairs, that is Program 4, achieving 92%, with only 1 target not met. I will just count quickly, Chair, on the non-achievements. The issue of the payment of invoices is also reflected as not achieved in the quarter 3 of our financial year. 83% out of the 100% invoices that were supposed to be paid could not be paid. So the variance of 17% is accounted for. And again, it's also the issue of insufficient budget that was in the account of the department when it was time to process the invoices. The other indicator that was not achieved, it's the certification of our own internal policies within 30 days as per the SOP that we have developed for ourselves, but it's proving to be a bit difficult on some of the policies that are complex for legal services to deal with them within the 30 days. And we are saying here corrective action is that we may need to revise our own SOP to cater for complex policies that require thorough processes or laborious processes to be done before the policy can be certified. Under Program 2, the IDP indicator, number of municipalities with legally compliant IDPs. All processes were exhausted on time, but the issue that compromised on the achievement of that particular target was that we needed to have a briefing session to brief the MEC before he could sign all the 54 letters. But we also can confirm that the letters were subsequently signed in January by the MEC and dispersed to municipalities. The functional oversight structures, that is an indicator that is under governance. We did not achieve on the 14 because there was an overachievement in quarter 1 of the financial year, which is going to make up obviously for the 13 or the 14 that was supposed to have been or that was planned for achievement in the quarter 3. So we are not so worried about this one because the annual target is going to be met. Under Program 4, the indicator that was not still under Program 3, the indicator that was not met, we had intended to connect 90 TAC sites with Wi-Fi. but due to budget reprioritization, the project had to be reviewed in line with the budget that was available. I know that the order has since been issued, and we are hoping to report an achievement of this one by the end of the financial year. The indicator that was not achieved under Program 4, again, it's that one of information sharing sessions on conflict management with Amakosi. This one is always proving a bit difficult for us to meet on time because it's highly dependent on the availability of Amakosi, and we are finding it that most of the time they do reschedule, without consideration of the targets that would have been set in the APP. That is why it is always almost a red target. But the session was conducted now in the Q4, and we're hoping that in the annual report, the picture will be looking better. Chairperson, those are the targets that were not achieved and the performance of the department at Q3. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much for that presentation. I just want to start by congratulating the department for your 4th consecutive clean audit. Well done on that. But one of the concerns is that in your final budget, you show a 31.9 million rand cut to Program 1. So I just want to find out, how is that going to affect audit readiness, legal compliance, and internal controls going forward? Will you still be able to achieve clean audits with such a huge cut? You don't have to answer now. Just keep that, and maybe somewhere along the line you can mention it. Members, let's take hands. Honorable Brataset, number 1. Honorable Ngadi, number 2. Honorable Fraser. Honorable Madlopa. And Honorable Basiela. All right, we'll take a second round as well. So members, you can prepare yourself for a second round. Over to you, Honorable Brataset.
Thank you, Chairperson. Chairperson, in the interest of time, I'll move as quick as I possibly can. Under the third quarter, we were advised by our researchers under the third quarter report that there's been an amount of 30,450,000 that was carried over, but it has not been allocated. So whoever can answer that question, 30,450,000. In the third quarter report, it's been carried over, but it hasn't been allocated anywhere in particular. So we need to get clarity on that. Obviously, we need to vote on the budget today, so we can't have that floating around without any home. Then the second primary issue, Chairperson, I'm going to raise, and I'm going to raise specific examples. I don't know who deals with targets, but if that person can just prick your ears up, please. Overall, in terms of the non-financial report, we've got 126 targets going down to 117. So if I look at we've got, in certain programs, I think it's Program 1, from 34 to 26. And then very concerning, if I can just pull this up quickly. If I go to, now this is obviously our analysis, so I also have to rely on that. And I thank the researcher for this very good work that was done. Sorry, please bear with me. Right, so we've got, as I say, from 34 to 26. And then if I go down to the next slide, we've got reductions in, this is now Program 1. Program 1, what I'm very concerned about is reductions in financial management, reduced from 5 to 3 output indicators. I've got strategic planning and service delivery, obviously incredibly important with Cogta, reduced from 4 to 2. Then if we go down to, we've got here integrated, and under program 2, integrated development planning, reduced from 4, reduced down to 4 output, and then very, very importantly, municipal performance monitoring, reporting, and evaluation, which is probably the primary oversight function in a Cogta environment, is reduced, output indicators reduced by 1. And so we carry on. If we go down to, if we have a look at forensics, very, very important. And the output indicators there are reduced by 2. There were 4 output indicators before, now it's 2 output indicators. So all in all, Chairperson, we've got a fairly large reduction in targets. Another example is program 4. The target reduction there focuses solely on traditional institutional management. And the output indicators there have been reduced by 5, more than half. That's very concerning. Now, I'd just like to know, is that a rationalization because of a lack of money? Or are we just in really important areas like performance management, monitoring, evaluation, forensics, and traditional institutional management, we're just wiping out oversight, wiping out performance indicators? Comes back to that old management saying, if you can't measure it, you can't manage it, right? You can't measure it, you cannot manage it. And one of the ways in which we manage anything is output indicators. So if we can just have a comment, maybe specifically on these issues, performance monitoring, forensic, traditional institutional management, those are just the ones I picked out as I was going through it. But then also, why the drop in output indicators? Because once again, if you can't measure it, you cannot manage it. Which means, for me, it looks like you're going to run into trouble there. But maybe you've got a satisfactory response. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you, Honourable Brattesett. Before we move on to the next member, I just want to raise something with the department. Your APP document that was supplied to us has not been signed. Is there a signed version that you have? Perhaps that while we are in progress in the meeting, you could have that forwarded to members, so we have no issue with progressing to vote on it. Honourable Dadi.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Honourable Speaker. Greetings to yourself, honourable members, HOD, and the entire management. We seek clarity from the management. I'll just gonna zoom in onto the 35 million rollover that was allocated for Izinduna, because the issue of Izinduna is a matter that is concerning on the ground with regards to the traditional affairs. I just wanted to get indulgence from the HOD, and when are they most likely to finalize the back pay of Izinduna, because it's an outcry on the ground. And also on the third quarter report on slide number 11, the CFO, if you could able to assist, on slide number 7, there is a current payments and the compensation of employees, which seeks to say that there is an amount that was backdated salary for a technical support staff at Umdoni municipality. And Shambane, you're gonna need to advise us, or because as far as we understand that the salaries of the that support staff is within the employment of the Mdoni municipality, therefore it needs to be paid by the budget of the municipality. Maybe you're gonna need to advise us. It could, if it's an expert from Cogta to Mdoni, then I would understand it. Somebody, I just need clarity on that one with regards to that so far. And I just want to throw in a matter of the transformers, Slalo. The 30 million that was called. I know Eskom has made a presentation to the portfolio, but it's still concerning. I just want to get a confidence from the management. If indeed are they satisfied that those transformers were actually installed in those three districts? I just want to get that, because as much as I might not reveal anything more than what I know, but I just want to get that if you have got maybe a portfolio of evidence handy, would be appropriate for us to say, no, indeed they were actually installed. That was my only submission. I had some other issues, Hlalo, of which, for the sake of time, I'm just going to hold it fire. But the time of the portfolio meeting is concerning, HOD, but we have raised it because we cannot be suffocated as honorable members for the 2-hour session on the very important documents that we need to deal with in terms of the finances, the budget, etc. That timing is actually concerning because everything is like
Honorable Ngadi.
rush. But anyway, thanks, Sado. I know that I'm getting.
Yeah, I just want to stop you there.
Okay.
I've indulged you with the question regarding the transformers, but members, I want to please request from you to keep your questions to the budget, to the agenda that we have on the table today. Let's move on to Honorable Fraser.
Thank you, Chair. Let me start by thanking the presenters for all presentations. They were clear and we appreciate that. I think the members who spoke before me has partly covered me on the issue of targets. But I would like to know why the reductions. That would be the first one. Maybe adding is understandable, but again, why? And which ones are those? What are the budget implications to that, to those targets? And of course, the implications in terms of service delivery. And I would like to check to those that were taken out, are they not part of those that were mentioned that were not achieved? And again, I would want to check in relations to the AG. Do we have in those that are not being part of the AG's concern or not? I do believe that the department is doing well in that corner, but I just want to know. And I'm also concerned that your performance should be in line with the budget. What is going to happen there? Then, to be exact, on the issue of 66 posts, I want to be clarified. I believe it's the 27 of Izinduna. I'm not sure whether it's 27 plus or not. Can we also be clarified on that one? Slalo, if I can share with the department, my dissatisfaction with the targets being reduced without us as the committee being aware of the issues. Maybe the department will clarify us on that. And Honorable Tim went in as far as mentioning some of those that are critical, of which personally I believe it won't harm the department if they put them back. And I think that one will be progressive. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Fraser. Just one clarity before we move on to the next speaker from you, HOD. Those reduction in targets, those are not for the 2025, 2026, am I correct? Those are for the 2024, 2025. Those were the reduction in targets.
Can I come and check?
Yes, sure.
Good morning to you, Honorable Chairperson, and to you, Honorable Members, and to you, HOD, and our colleagues from the Cogta. So as analysts, what we did, so just to provide clarity, we looked at the 24-25 revised APP, and then we compared it to the 25-26 final APP. My researcher will tell. That's why I see the department keeps on getting confused. It's because as analysts, we want to see that when you had the revised APP last year, which was 24-25, how did you move to the new one? Remember that we also look at the budget. You come and tell us that the budget for the 24-25 was 1.8 billion, and then you tell us in the 25-26, it's so much. So I hope that provides clarity, Chairperson, so that we can be on the same page. Because I could see the department kept on wondering, why are the members talking about reductions? We don't look at it against first draft, second draft, third draft. Remember, we're in the final now. We're tying everything up. We say, okay, let's go back to the last financial year. There had two APPs. You remember HOD, he had one, then you revised it. And then you said, despite the drafts that you had in 25-26 financial year, then we are at the final stage. Let's compare to where we're coming from. Thank you, Honorable Chairperson.
That makes sense. Thank you for the clarity. All right, let's move on to Honorable Madlopa.
Thanks, Honorable Chair. Greetings to the HOD and your entourage, ma'am. Greetings to honorable members and our support staff. No, we want to welcome the presentation that we have received from the department. However, as the colleagues have raised the issues around the issue of the targets, that is the concern that we're having, all of us, as a committee. When we deliberated, our concern was the fact that when the targets are being set, they are costed. And we also report, it becomes a public consumption. What is the department going to do? And now if it is changed without, even notifying us to say this is a challenge and so on, it becomes a concern to us as public representative, because it will seem like what we report that has been, is going to come as the service delivery. Maybe we are not telling the truth because it changed. And I think the colleagues have raised the concern on the implication in regards to the budget and so on. And also the other implication to us is people that do oversight. It's the challenge around the issue. How are we going to measure the performance? If now we are presented with this, and when you come back, those things that were there are no more there. And also, how does it impact on the budget itself going forward? But when it comes to the report, Honorable Chair, I want to check. My understanding is that when you put a target, it's because now we have got the MTEF, which means to say that you have got maybe the first year for planning. The second year, when you put it as a target, it means to say that the planning type is now for implementation. But the concern that one is having, I can see also on the LED community service centers, nothing was achieved on program 2 because it is said that the MEC was to approve the program implementation in terms of the design and cost. So now we don't know whether this one is a reason, because the work is being done administratively. I don't think that if that particular approval was given to the MEC on time when every planning was done, was going to be put as maybe something that was not approved by the MEC. So one wants to check, how do you really plan and put down the targets before? Because now it's not like before. I know that government was having 1 year to plan and implement same time. Now we have got METF. That means to say you can plan, and then when you put it as a target now for implementation, is going to be implemented. Maybe if you can tell us whether you don't first try and plan, pre-planning, planning, and then it comes to the implementation. Because when you look down now, it's like the reason is that it was not approved by the MEC. Hence, the spade work is being done by the administration. Maybe I can hold there and greet our MEC. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Madlopa, and welcome to you, MEC. I just want to give you a few minutes to greet the committee, and then we'll move on to Honorable Basiela.
Thank you very much, Chairperson and honorable members. To profusely apologize because of the accident on the N3, where we've been stuck for 1 hour, 45 minutes just before Ashburton. And the accident is still there even now. One really apologizes to the committee and the members. And maybe I will try and see where the meeting is, so that one can better fit in to where the discussion is.
So, MEC, we've dealt with the reports. We are now in the process of engaging the department questions on all of the reports.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Really, one is at a disadvantage, not having the benefit of the discussion from the members, and as to how the reports were presented, because the budget which we are presenting now comes from a context of a huge deficit which one inherited in the department when we came in of more than 34 million rand. And this is really a stabilizing budget, really also to reprioritize the programs which weren't aligned to the core service delivery imperatives of government. So one comes in at a disadvantage because I don't know how the reports were presented. But I will try and come in, Chairperson, as and when the discussion is flowing. Thank you.
Thank you, MEC. And before you come on, Honorable Basiela, I just want to comment on the targets while we're on the topic of the targets. Now, one of the concerns is how the department will achieve all your APP targets in 2025, 2026, especially in infrastructure, Amakosi support, and disaster readiness under the current fiscal limitations. I'll give you an example. The other concern is the APP sets ambitious targets for disaster readiness. Example, your climate resilient municipalities, DDM implementation, and so on. But the third quarter report shows under expenditure in infrastructure grants, only 58.47% spent by quarter 3. And projects like the Amakosi resource mobilization were delayed due to procurement issues. So that is a concern for us. how you're going to navigate that space. We know, the legislation concerning amending your budget. Will you at some point amend your APP? What are the provisions, legalities? Perhaps you can touch on whether this APP will be adjusted at some point and what the process is in terms of adjusting the APP. Over to you, Honorable Basiela.
Thank you, Chair. And greetings to yourself, the MEC, the head of department, and the management team here. My contribution really is one that's not directly to the budget, but it's very critical. Funds are never available for items or for needs of the most vulnerable of the poor. Housing, other services, etc.
I'm going to stop you there. I need for you to engage on the budget. And I just want to remind members, any other questions that you have, you're most welcome to use the processes to write to the MEC, submit those questions to the MEC for direct response to you. But there's a lot to deal with this budget and the APP and the reports that we have on the table. So I want us to limit our questions to those, please.
So can I just be maybe 2 or 3 items? Can I just ask these questions?
Sure, if they are related
Yes.
to the documents on the table.
Well, it's not really related to these documents, but there's a section 106, the investigation that's going to take place now. My question is something as simple as this. When people report bleeding of funds in municipalities, for example, we've got members who have complained that.
All right, Honorable Basiela, I'm so sorry to interject again. Let's hold that for resolutions, responses to Cogta committee resolutions. Section 106 is there, so we can deal with that there. All right. Let me give an opportunity to the department to respond to the questions we've raised. And then members, I'll take a second round as well, so that you can ask a second round of questions. Thank you. Over to you, HOD.
Thank you very much. Good morning, Honourable MEC. Thank you to all of the honourable members for the questions that we have received. I think in respect of the questions, Honourable Browter said, the issue of the reduction in the budget of Programme 1 by the 31.9 million and the impact on service delivery. That was in respect of the prior financial year. I think, honourable members, I want to highlight, as the MEC alluded, that when we came into the 24-25 financial year, we came in actually with a total deficit of approximately 134 million rand. So we carried over invoices to the value of about 65 million rand. We also then had the Eskom Transformer Project 30 million, which was to be reimbursed to the department by Provincial Treasury. And I think at the workshop we held with the Portfolio Committee, we had indicated same, and thankfully the Treasury then responded and returned the 30 million. And then we had the 35 million rand for Izinduna back pay, which has also been commented on by the honourable member. So that 134 million rand deficit, we spent between September and now trying to stabilize the department financially, or we would overspend significantly by the end of March if we continued on the trajectory we were. So what we did to achieve that was primarily to manage cash flow as opposed to managing an overall budget. So we said we're not going to budget and project for expenditure if projects are not at a stage where the entire budget will be spent by the end of the financial year. We then adjusted for that and we made good on our commitments so that we're able to stabilize. So as at the end of the financial year, it will only be invoices that we have received late in March, which will be carried over. The department has now paid all invoices and we are up to date with all of our payments. Of course, the next logical question is, what is the impact on service delivery? One example would be the CSC program, the Imiziyesizwe program, where we had budgeted to not develop new CSCs, but to actually refurbish the existing CSCs. So in terms of the facility, it still exists, but it's not necessarily that there is no services. There was construction planned for 2 CSCs. The designs were amended, and that took a bit of time as well. So the projects will be implemented into the next financial year. And I think that should allay the fears of the committee. So in managing the cash flow, the 31 million rand reduction on program 1, when we looked at it, we have 1,500 employees, and there were licenses. Sorry. Thank you very much. It will be the 25-26 financial year. Thank you. The 31 million rand reduction in program 1, I've indicated we have 1,500 employees approximately, and at least 30% of those employees are in posts that are your general workers, your drivers, your security personnel. But we had asked for software licenses for those personnel. So it didn't make sense to pay software licenses for the food services aid. So what we then did is we reviewed all the IT contracts under program 1. We also found systems that could do the same thing. So we have the SmartGov system for electronic submissions, and at the same time we had e-signing hub, which gave us the same features. And we therefore then cancelled the one contract because we already had the functionality as a department. The signing hub was used primarily for legal documents. But we found that the need did not justify the expenditure. And so that was the reason why the program 1 budget was adjusted significantly down. I think one IT contract was about 18 million rand, just one contract alone. So you'll see that there were significant cost savings from rationalizing our systems and our licenses. I think insofar as the 30.4 million that was not allocated, that was CFO, I see, wants to respond. Go ahead, CFO.
Thank you, HOD. Greetings to our Honorable MEC. The 30 million which was carried over, that's the rollover for Izinduna back pay. We have already paid as the department 2026, about 26.8 million towards those. We do have about 44 outstanding cases that that needs to be finalized for that balance of about 3.6 million. So we are working towards the finalization. It's just that it includes legal and their families and all that. So it's a lengthy process. Hence we have paid 26 million to date in terms of that rollover. Thank you. Thanks.
Thank you very much. I think you've covered that. Simply to say that the remaining payments relate to deceased estates, where it requires us to process beneficiaries' confirmation with the Master's Court, etc. And those are processes underway. And I think there are, as at today, 36 cases, according to our report, that remain outstanding. We started in September with about 69. So we've almost halved the number that we are dealing with. And that has been significant progress. I think on we will, Honourable Chair, provide the signed version of the APP. We will email it through. We have it scanned. In terms of the reduction of targets, I think we've also changed the entire planning context for government through the MTDP. So the number of government priorities have also reduced from 7 to 3. So that's fundamentally why you will see, or partly why you will see some of the reduction in the targets. The other reason you would see a reduction in targets is when we sat down and we reviewed our APP of last year, you might have found targets that we believe to have been very operational. So number of sector coordination meetings convened as an example. Number of meetings convened is by no stretch of the imagination, certainly not a strategic target. So we reduce, therefore, some of those targets out of the APP. The core business of Cogta remains in our strategic plan. The priorities that were there and that we have identified as new priorities have been included in the new APP. Remember, this is underpinned by the 5-year strategic plan of the department, which we also shared with the committee previously. So that, I think, is the primary reason. We don't believe that there will be that service delivery has been compromised in any way. Our core mandates will be fulfilled as Cogta. So I think we can engage the researchers if we have to do a complete analysis in terms of which targets from 24-25 through to 25-26 have been eliminated. There are also new targets which we have adjusted and changed because of revised priorities. So I don't think, Chairperson, that there is cause for concern. I think we will be able to display that quite clearly. The technical support, payment to technical support, this was specifically for an intervention in terms of Section 154 of the Constitution. So it was an intervention approved by the Provincial Executive Council at Umdoni Municipality. You will know there was significant instability at Umdoni, and a technical expert was then appointed for the municipality, which then is appointed by Cogta on behalf of the PEC to undertake that work. In terms of the 30 million rand transformers, certainly there is a POE. If I'm not mistaken, Chair, we did submit a detailed report on the 30 million rand spent on transformers, and that was also served when Eskom sat before the committee. So the details of every single transformer, the ward, the area that was supplied electricity by those has been submitted. Chair, I think the 66 posts, does not include vacancies of Amakosi and Izinduna. That is a process that is managed separately through the Provincial Executive Council. And this is in relation to staff. And the filling of posts report is also included as part of the response to the resolutions of the committee, Chair. I think as far as the budget allocation, Chairperson, we would like more money. We do not believe, and in fact, we will already be looking at, given the disasters that we have experienced, our Honourable MEC has already requested that we look at where we can cut costs, operational costs possibly, so that we can allocate more funding for disaster management. We have also made representations to the National Minister of Finance, the Premier, and the National Minister for Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs to reconsider allocations to the province, particularly for disaster management. So that will remain a concern because we know that post-COVID, our budget never balanced back to what it originally was. There were cuts, and those cuts were never made good in subsequent years. We simply had to make do then under those budget cuts that we had experienced. So that for us remains a challenge. We believe that with more funding, service delivery can certainly be enhanced. We did indicate that where there were grants unspent by municipalities, we had recovered those grants. As you've seen in the report, the 4 million rand we got back from was it Umzumbe, I think. So we've recovered that money.
Actually, if I may just interject there for a little bit more clarity, you speak of the recovered grants. That is a serious concern for us because as a committee, service delivery is our concern. It's one thing to recover the grants, but what measures are being put in place to ensure that we don't go on recovering grants, but that municipalities actually spend it on service delivery for the people? And also on the topic of spending as well, we know that we've read that the OSS DDM projects had not gone off the ground because we believe MEC was busy assessing the situation and projects and so on. Has there been any change with regards to that? Because we're now approaching the end of March. So spending is a big issue for the committee. Conditional grants need to be spent. We hear you when you say that you as a department require more money, but we really need that positive feedback when it comes to spending existing funds. Thanks.
Chairperson, I think on the departmental side, we can give you assurance that our funding is spent as appropriated. So from a department point of view, there is no challenge. And the funding that we have allocated for service delivery programs and projects will take place. I think when the MEC, Honourable MEC, delivers his budget speech, then members of the committee will get a full perspective of what the priority areas are, what the focus areas are, what we have identified province-wide as the geographic areas that require spend, a greater focus to be more shifted towards smaller municipalities and rural communities. So those are things that I think in the budget speech, and I won't preempt that on behalf of the Honourable MEC. But in terms of municipal expenditure on grants, it remains cause for concern, but it's a complex problem, Honourable Chair. And I'll illustrate this by the example that on the 15th of March and the 25th of March, those municipalities that experienced disasters in December 2024 and in December 2024 and January received their funding. They are now expected to spend that money in 6 months. And they are still expected to ensure that they follow their procurement processes within that time frame. So we have a fundamental problem with the methodology that is being applied by National Treasury in the allocation and disbursement of this funding. Because if municipalities are unable to spend within that short timeline, and construction projects do not take 6 months, Chairperson. Roads and infrastructure definitely do not take 6 months. The procurement process is at least 2 months. The site setup, the actual construction, the handover, those processes are very significant. And the challenge is that the National Treasury then will say, well, if you have not spent the money, we will withdraw it. But at the same time, those projects become work in progress. So municipalities are left with the withdrawal of funds of projects that are already in progress. And it has happened in the province. We have raised this issue with the National Treasury. We have raised it with the MEC for Finance in the province so that it can also be addressed through the Budget Council. And we have called for the revision of the financial model fiscal model for municipalities. So those are issues that structurally we need to deal with, and we would look to the support of the committee members to assist us in that area. But at an operational level, to ensure and to support municipalities to ensure that expenditure happens. There is very close monitoring by the Department of Municipal Infrastructure Grants in particular, the MIG, the WSIG, the RBIG, and the INEP grants. All of them aimed at water service delivery, water and sanitation, electricity, and then other infrastructure projects for service delivery within municipalities. KZN was one of the provinces that introduced a risk-adjusted approach. So we went beyond the National Treasury minimum expenditure levels, and then we added to that the requirements to be at a particular phase in the project implementation program for the funding to be spent on time. We have internal project managers, but we do not have sufficient capacity to deal with, I think it's over 3,000 infrastructure projects across the province in any one year. We have now introduced a provincial project management unit, and we will then be utilizing experts to deal with packaging. We have been packaging projects, but maybe not at the pace that we would have liked to in support of municipalities. But we'll now be packaging and supporting the implementation of projects, even looking at some cross-border projects, transversal projects, bigger projects, catalytic projects being implemented at a provincial level. And that would be to assist us to save money and time. The other element, Chairperson, is that we are in conversation with the Department of Public Works and Infrastructure. They have engineers, quantity surveyors, and other professionals that are available to support municipalities. So we are looking towards signing an MOU with that department to utilize those resources in support of municipalities as well. So various efforts and endeavors are being made to improve the situation and the expenditure levels in municipalities. We are also, trying to ensure that there is consequence management at a municipal level. So if projects are not being implemented because the administration is failing in those municipalities, then the MEC at the Munimec we had last week already called for consequence management in this particular area, because we also do not want any monies withdrawn from the province. Chairperson, OSS DDM projects we have identified in our strategic plan, and you will see it here, the implementation of the DDM, the spatial development planning frameworks, as well as catalytic projects to be implemented in every district in the province. And those catalytic projects will be implemented by Cogta. So, we have now really changed our approach to focus on each district and ensuring that actually service delivery happens and the most needy are able to get some catalytic project that will boost the economy of that particular area. So that is included in the strategic plan and in the APP, Chairperson. You will see that. With the DDM also, the one plans will be submitted by municipalities by the end of this month. They will be assessed by the department, and then they will be coordinated and submitted also to the Provincial Executive Council, so that we get alignment between national and provincial catalytic projects as well as district plans, so that there is an alignment of the funding. Chairperson, I don't think I've missed out anything, but if I have, I will be reminded. Thank you.
I think you've covered it. Before I take a second round of hands from members. All right, Honorable Madlopa.
No, thanks, Honorable Chair. No, I want to check. I think there was a question that was saying to those projects that maybe there was a delay in approval of them. Now we are four days to the financial year, end of financial year. Is there any progress from that delay that was done? The last one, Chair, we will request, because we want to appreciate the responses from the acting HOD, but we'll request in regard to the reduction of the targets, that all those targets that were reduced may be listed, and also the reason for reduction on those particular ones, because you are saying they are not having an impact on the service delivery. We would want to see it and compare to what the targets that we are having vis-a-vis the one that has been cut down. That will be our request, Chair. Thanks.
Thank you, Honorable Malopa. The question I wanted to raise while we were talking about municipalities.
The last one, Chair, is what the Chair raised, because it was our concern as a committee. The money that has been received from Umzuabantu, 4.2 million. We are of the view that this particular fund or money that was given to the municipality, there was a reason for service delivery. We always say that the local government is in the cold phase of service delivery. I think what the Chair raised to say that although the department is indicating that they are assisting the municipalities, but for the department to to enjoy the receival of the money from the municipality back to them, I don't think it's a good thing. Maybe in future we must try and assist the municipality and follow up if there are funds or transfers that we have done to the municipality, assist them so that we make sure that there is a service delivery at a local government level. Thank you so much, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Madlopa. Coming back to the point that I raised while we're talking about municipalities and spending, following the MEC of Finance's budget speech, we heard about the e-procurement tool. And yesterday we raised the question with him at Finance Committee with regards to whether this is something that can be rolled out in municipalities, because it will indeed be a game changer for municipalities. Will you be looking into legislative changes to accommodate such at local government level? And maybe your opinion of this, because as a committee, some of us did discuss it, offline, that it would be something that would be very beneficial to municipalities and their spending and so on. So just briefly respond to that before we take a second round of hands from the members. Over to you, HOD.
Thank you, Chairperson, and members for that. I think the Umuziwa Bantu funding that was recovered was from the financial year 2022-2023. So it was outstanding for now almost 3 years. The project that it was intended to fund was a market stall project. What we are now doing, as we've indicated, honourable members, is that we have established our own project management unit. So you will see a significant reduction in transfer payments in the department's budget. We're not transferring to municipalities who, by and large, do not have the capacity, technical capacity to design and implement these projects. So as Cogta, we will then be implementing those projects at a provincial level. In fact, there are discussions nationally regarding provincial allocations for service delivery projects. And that is something that we are looking forward to. So I think the projects will still continue, but the model in terms of delivering the projects will have changed. Chairperson, on the e-procurement tool and the legislative changes. Yes.
MEC?
Maybe let me come in. You say, Chairperson and honorable members, there are many projects such as Umuzi Wabantu and Inkosi Polo, where funds from Cogta were misappropriated in those projects. And in projects in Msunduzi, where funds from Cogta, those projects were never complete. So I think at the next meeting of the portfolio committee, acting HOD, we must present those projects. Because if the honorable member asks in which year, we must start at the beginning. Because those projects were totally misappropriated by the municipalities. So we can't keep throwing money when municipalities are squandering the money. Even at Nkosi Polo's place, millions were squandered in a project which supposedly was to assist Nkosi, but it never happened. The money is not there. You can go there. The committee can go on an oversight. There's nothing to show. So, I think we must come up with a list of those projects, because it's not just about in which year will it be implemented when the municipalities themselves are failing to use this money.
No, thank you for that, MEC. Members, I don't want this to turn into a dialogue.
No.
So we're going to give you a second round of questions, and then I'll take your hands in the second round of questions. You were responding to the e-procurement tool, Acting HOD. If you could just complete that, and then I'll give the members an opportunity, because we are also constrained for time. So I need to ensure that we cover all of the items on the agenda adequately. Can you just round that up?
Thank you, Chairperson. I think
Honorable Fraser, I'll give you an opportunity once the Acting HOD is completed.
Thank you, Chairperson. I think the shortest possible answer is that we will support any legislative amendment, Chairperson, that will improve the systems and controls in local government. The MFMA and the PPFA are national legislation, and it will have to be done by the National Treasury to make the amendments will have to be done by the National Treasury. Insofar as implementation at a provincial level, we will obviously await the provincial Treasury support in terms of the rollout of the e-procurement tool. Thank you, Chair.
Just one other point that you did not cover is with regards to the